The greatest power you possess is your ability to choose. Join Lowe's Moore as he reveals how you can begin to maximize that power by exploring yourself on the deepest levels and committing to making lasting and positive changes. Get ready to achieve breakthroughs that will lead to accelerated growth and transformation, because you are now tuned in to The Blueprint.
Why the actions contradict the lamb. I'm fellowshipping when I'm with the fam. That's more relations, that's foreign and foreign.
Good evening and welcome back to the Blueprint Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Lowe's Moore, and I am excited to be back with you guys, man. Hey, if you're in the East, right, you know the weather's not good, right? So when you're in the East, but hey, I don't mind. Think about it. I woke up this morning. That's the most important thing. I woke up regardless of whether it's raining, snowing, cold, hot. I'm here. Right, and I'm sure everybody else would agree with me too. You woke up, it's all good, and we know, particularly here in the East, that we're about to enter February. Time is moving. 2024 a month is almost finished already in 2024, and next month is going to be February, and then it's going to be March, and we're going to be close to spring, right? And I'm going to be looking forward to that warm weather. Or you know what you have to do? You might have to go on a road trip. That's what you might have to do. You might have to get on a road and find a place where it's warm at and just go there. And here's interesting. I've been traveling a little bit, trying to, help out my daughter. Because my daughter and her husband, parents now, about to be 8 months. And so when they're both coaches, and so we took a road trip with them and we took care of our granddaughter while they coached. We got a chance to see a couple of games. We was in Baltimore at the Townsend game, and then we was at the University of Delaware. And this past weekend, I think we just love basketball, right? This past weekend, it was fast. I'm a little tired from it, right? We got on the road on Friday, and I have in Rhode Island. I have I guess you would call him a great nephew, right? He's not my nephew. He's a great nephew. He's my brother, sister's son. So he's a great nephew, and he's playing high school basketball in Providence, Rhode Island, and then. On Friday night, we went to see him play. I haven't seen him in a few years, man. I mean, when he was young, he looked like a mature young man. He's now 18 years old. I took my mom with him, so that's her great grandson. And man, he loved on her, man, because he said, "Man, I haven't seen you in so long." Right, and he hugged on her and stuff like that. He was just so excited to see us. He was like, "Man, I haven't seen you in a while." So I got a chance to see him play basketball. And then on Saturday afternoon, I have a cousin that plays for the University of Rhode Island for the Tisha Hyman, plays for the University of Rhode Island's women's team. So at 1:00, we went over to the game there and watched her play and spent some time with her. Road trip, and then came back home last night and got up today and went to see my daughter and her husband, my son-in-law. They coach for Stony Brook. And so I was at the game this afternoon watching them. And now I'm back. I'm on the podcast, right? I'm on the podcast tonight, driving through all that rain to get back here to be on time for the podcast. So I'm here and I'm excited. The Blueprint, I love it. And hey, man, I love you guys, man. And I want to say thank you for your support of the Blueprint Podcast, man, each and every week. And I'm just really, really, really excited. And so I want to start somewhere. Let me start quickly on the whole month of January. I've been involved in doing this, what they call the 31-day wisdom challenge. And there it is, 31-day wisdom challenge. I mean, I put it out there, the last couple of weeks, And I tell you, it's been great. I didn't, I didn't make it through the Daniel fast, the 21-day Daniel fast. You know, Daniel ran away and he was too fast and I couldn't catch up with him. So I didn't make it through the Daniel fast because Daniel was too fast. So, but I am going to make it through 31 days of the Wisdom Challenge. I mean, it has been a blessing, man, to go through the book of Proverbs and to think about wisdom, everything, wisdom in my life, wisdom in business, wisdom in my family, and just getting a deeper understanding of the books of Proverbs. And it's been awesome, and I'm glad I don't, every day at 11 o'clock on the East, and 8:30, I guess, Pacific time, I if I don't make it, they give me a replay. So I make sure I catch up on my replays, man. I've learned a lot this month. It's a great way to get off to a good start. I mean, just an amazing way to get off to a good start. And for me, it's great. I think I'll do it every year. Moving forward, you get deeper understanding in terms of wisdom and how to use it in your life and to make it practical. And so my wife was saying to me as we were listening to one of the days in the car while we were driving, and she said to me, you ought to do a love challenge, right? Seeing that we're coming up on February, and February 14th is Valentine's Day, and we kind of look at it as February as number one, there's Black History Month, right? And then you got Valentine's Day, so it's love, right? And so she said you ought to do a love challenge. So it sparked something a couple of weeks in me, and so we're about to start to launch the first annual 29 days love challenge. I believe that, man, that love is a remnant for the world today. I was talking to my guest before I came on, and we were talking about some of the craziness that's going on around the world, the craziness that's going on in America, all right. And what's a remnant for all the craziness? Love is a remnant for it. And so we're going to give you some scriptures about love. We're going to have some people come on to talk about the importance and power of love. And we're going to talk about the importance of random acts of kindness, right? And acts of kindness, and how acts of kindness, just little small things in regards to love, right? How it can change a frequency, how it can change a sound, how it can change a vibration, how it can change an environment, how love can change a culture, right? When I become aware of, of respecting you and you respecting me, right? And going back to the old days, I mean, this is one thing, if I had to bring something forward from the old days, was common courtesy, right? From the old day, character, morals and values, ethics, manners, right? I mean, I don't know if we remember that. I think our moral compass has been broken, but we can reignite that compass, right, by acts of love. So I'm looking forward to it. Coming up this February, 29 days. And let me give you the time. The time is going to be Eastern time, right? It's going to be east on the east. It says at the bottom, it says blank that out later on in the show. I'm going to have a different flyer up there later on in the show, and it's going to be for 30 minutes. I'm going to be on for 30 minutes with a guest from 12 p.m. to 12:30 p.m. It's a lunch break, right? You can just pop on for 30 minutes and just listen to us talk about the power and the importance of love, right? All right, everybody good with that? And if you've done, we were talking about this last week, if you've done any acts of kindness over this past week, or somebody has extended you some kindness over the week and you want to share it, just pop it in the chat. In the chat, I was able to do this, right? We're not getting brownie points for doing these things. We're doing these things because they should be done, and we should be kind, and we should show love, right? We should show those things. So, if you got anything, pop it in the little space there in the chat, and we'll respond to it. So let me get rolling, right? Let me start out with my book of the week. I've read this book several times. It's by Dr. Creflo A. Dollar Jr. Lord, Teach Me How to Love. It's the learning from the ultimate example, right? Because God is love, right? So, that's my book of the week. Last week, I think I still have it up there. Last week's book was The Love Revolution by Joyce Myers, and this is what prompted this love challenge. Was that I was so connected to this book when it first came out, and I connected with Joyce Myers, and I mean in a very serious way about I increased my acts of kindness by reading this book and going through her program on the Love Revolution. So these two books coincide with each other around the focus of love. And then here's my word of the week, right? She looks a little upset that about teach, right? And my word of the week is teach, right? Each one, teach one. Teach somebody. If you know how to love, teach somebody to love. Powerful word, right? We all need to be taught, right? And how important it is to get taught and to teach, right? You learn something, you teach somebody about it, right? So you learn how to do acts of kindness, and then you go on and you show acts of kindness and teach other people to show acts of kindness. So and then here's my affirmation and quote moment, right? And actually, this is the affirmation quote moment, but also my person of the week is knowledge isn't free. You have to pay attention, right? Knowledge isn't free. You have to pay attention, right? And then here's my music of the week and movie of the week. Bob Marley, who was just in the quote, right? One Love. Everybody loves this song, man. And I'm looking forward to, this is a movie I have not seen that's coming in February. I'm looking forward to seeing the movie on the life of Bob Marley, One Love. Right, that's my music and movie of the week. And then I think I still have my person of the week. Yeah, I got them kind of mixed up there. C.J. Stroud, right? I don't know if you guys know him, but I think he's with the Texans, and he's the quarterback, rookie quarterback. Had a tremendous year this year. He should be rookie of the year. I love him for his faith. I love him for his character. Man, it was just amazing watching him and listening to him in terms of his interviews. What a awesome young man, and he's my person of the week. All right, I think I'm done. I think I may be done. And we got a birthday. Happy birthday, Lakeisha. That's my niece, Lakeisha. Man, they threw her back in the day, Keisha playing the saxophone. I don't even remember that, but I remember that she used to rap back in the day, and then eventually she went into the military, right? And awesome. Happy birthday, Keisha. And then to my godson, Jamal, on January 24th. Woo! Man, he getting up there, man. Happy birthday, Jamal. Miss you. Way down in Atlanta. I know it's warmer there than it is here, but happy birthday to you. All right. So without further ado, I don't have any video. Man, I want to introduce my guest. Oh, man, my guest for this week, Miss Sandy Gregory. Sandy, what's up?
Hi, Lowe's.
Hey, real quick, let me tell you guys how I got connected to Sandy. And he's been on the podcast before. My good friend Hugo King, right? Of course, we know Hugo's a businessman, right? But let me say this about Hugo. And I was talking about Hugo the other day, right? And we should all strive to be like Hugo, right? Anytime I'm down, right? No, if I'm down or I'm going through a problem or when I was working, when I was working and stuff like that, and I was going through some stressful situations or whatever I was going through, all I would have to do is call Hugo. We should all strive to be like Hugo, right? And Hugo, right? He never has a negative word to talk about. I mean, anytime you come on and talk to Hugo and you say something, this is your issue, Hugo will throw a quote, right? He always got a story. He always got something positive to energize you and help turn your negative into a positive. I mean, that's just the way Hugo is. Right. And so I knew he called me the other day about Sandy, and Sandy, he always says this to me. Lowe's, I got somebody I want you to meet. Hold on for a second. And of course, Sandy gets on the phone and we're on the phone, Sandy and I and Hugo, and we're talking about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We're just going back and forth. We should all strive to show love and kindness like Hugo. And to bring, anytime that you see there's rain, Hugo brings the sunlight. I mean, he just comes in and he always says to me, man, you can't steal parked car, man. Yeah, he's always giving me something to encourage me every single time. But he introduced us, but he had been talking about you, Sandy, for years.
I've never met Hugo, first of all.
Well, you don't have to meet him because it's just other than on the phone. You don't have to meet Hugo in person. You have to meet him, but you don't have to meet him because you just know once you're on the phone with Hugo, it's all going to be great. Now, let's see this other connection, right, is that Sandy and I have a connection, right? And that would be, some people, when you grow up, and I had a lot of idols, a lot of guys that I grew up on, right? Of course, going back, I'm going to date myself. When the Knicks won the NBA championship, I was a big Knick fan. Of course, I was a big fan of Walt Frazier, and I was a big fan of Earl of Pearl Monroe. They were like my two favorite players, and they were real fancy. But my favorite player wasn't a pro yet. My favorite player, watching him play in the boys club when I was a little kid, was Gus Williams. And from the boys club, I admired Gus. To high school, he was a legend, amazing and magical. And then from high school to college to USC, right? And many people don't know this about Gus, right? Gus Williams did not make his varsity team until he was a senior in high school. He got cut 3 years in a row as a freshman, sophomore, and junior. He got cut and made varsity as a senior in high school, scored almost over 500 points in his senior year, and received a full scholarship to USC. Now, you talk about, that's amazing. I don't even know how you can cut a guy like us, right? But Sandy and Sandy, so talk a little bit about the connection is Gus,
The connection
right?
is Gus.
The
Yes.
connection is Gus. So talk about Gus. Talk about your connection to Gus before we move forward.
Well, what's been fun is meeting all of Gus's friends, all these Mount Vernon people. It's been really fun to talk to you guys. But way back, I mean, we're talking about way back. I worked in the athletic department at USC and in the sports information office. And I'd been there a couple of years, and one of the basketball coaches came to me and he said, "We have a new player on the team. He's from New York and he's homesick. Would you let him use your phone every once in a while to call home and talk to his mother?" And that's how I met Gus back in 1972.
A long time ago.
Is that against NCAA rules? Am I going to get SC in trouble? I hope there's a statute of limitations. But that's how I met Gus, and I left a couple years later and followed my boss to the World Football League, which folded, and then followed him again to the Seattle Seahawks. And in the meantime, Gus graduates from USC. He's drafted by Golden State, and then Lenny Wilkens trades and gets him up in Seattle. So we kind of got reunited in Seattle years later, and we've just been in touch ever since. So yeah,
Wow.
special person.
Yeah. Gus is a special person, man. He's a special human being, man. Once you meet Gus, you can never forget him. and so you are now, before we talk about a little bit of your history, but now you serve on the board, right, for the Sonic Legends Fund.
I actually helped create the Sonics Legends Fund a couple years ago. It was actually September of 2022. I knew that Gus and Slick Watts, two former Sonic players, had both had strokes, and they needed help with some of their medical expenses. So I'd already had a little bit of history with the Seahawks in starting a fund to help our former players. So I actually went to a guy named Todd Lewicki. He used to work for the Seahawks. He worked for the NFL, but he redid the basketball arena here in Seattle. And he is the president of the Kraken, which is our hockey team that plays at that arena. But the arena is now made for basketball. But Todd has said on many occasions, when asked about bringing basketball back to Seattle, because we lost the Sonics over 15 years ago to Oklahoma City, and everybody wants basketball back. But I didn't want to do anything having to do with Sonics without Todd's permission, because he was obviously staying in the background when it had to do with talking about basketball. So I went to Todd Lewicki and I told him, the history of the Seahawks Fund and what I wanted to do with the Sonics. And he's like, "I love this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have an event here at Climate Pledge Arena. We have a basketball game coming up. It's the Clippers versus an Israeli team. And we're going to have a reception before that game. And then everybody gets to go to the game. And we're going to raise $50,000. And I mean, he was just so enthusiastic and so excited. And we had such a great event. We had about a month to put it together. But Kevin Calabro, who was the voice of the Sonics, and Kenny Bain, who was at ESPN, they were our co-hosts. And Fred Brown was there, and Jack Sikma, and Sean Kemp, and Detlef Schrempf, and Steve Haas. We had so many former basketball players there. It was a great night. Everybody had so much fun. And we raised almost $90,000 that night in like 1 hour. It was pretty impressive.
Hour.
Just got the right people in the room.
Yeah. I
And,
think we had a picture. I think we had a picture of the Sonics Legend Fund.
Oh.
Let me see if we can have that. Show that picture real quick. Oh, who is that?
Oh, gee. Oh, my gosh. Oh, you guys
That's
are cool.
that's the young Sandy right there.
Oh, you've done some research.
Man.
Oh, geez.
So scroll down some of them other pictures of the Legends Fund now. Oh man, yeah, there you go, right there, the Legends Fund.
But like, there's Lenny Wilkens and Rick Welts and Kenny Mayne and Sean Kemp and Sikma and Detlef Schrempf. I mean, it just, oh yeah, really, oh yeah, that's me. Oh.
Oh man, and then
There's Todd Lywicki, and Todd Lywicki is an amazing person that I just have so much respect for. He's all about taking care of people. You would love him. He's about not just taking care of the players and the coaches and the staff, but making sure that the fans have a great experience and that the team is taking care of the community. He's just all about people and making sure that everybody is taken care of. He's amazing. Yeah, Sean Kemp and Kenny.
Sean
Mayne.
Kemp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see Sean. There go my man Spencer Haywood too,
Very
and
well,
Lenny
yeah.
Wilkins. Yeah,
That was a different event. Yeah.
Deadlift Shrimp. I mean,
Yeah.
man.
I know. We've been fortunate. I've met a lot of Sonic people that I did not know before, but it's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's awesome, man. There's Lenny and Slick.
And Slick, the headband. Always wearing the headband.
I mean,
Yep.
I think every little kid when Slick Watts came out, because one of the things that I don't think you well, you probably know Gus always wore like one wristband.
Well, he also he tied his tennis shoes in the back of his sneakers.
Right. So I tied mine in the back of my sneakers for
Do you?
all when I was in the pros and college and stuff like that. So I tied my sneakers because he was my idol, right? And I had that one wristband because we used to use it to wipe the sweat. Yeah,
Wow.
but I don't think the headband caught on with Slick Watts. I mean, I think when
Kids here did.
when it came out, when Slick came out with the headband, we all put it on. We all went out and got headbands. Yeah, but it didn't stick in my
didn't
brother.
stick. Oh, that's funny.
But the Gus Williams wristband, it's stuck with us. Yeah, and let's talk a little bit before we digress and talk about you and your extensive history in regards to the Seattle Seahawks. Let's talk a little bit about something we talked about earlier, because we all assume, that every athlete, when somebody makes the pros, they're rich.
Yeah,
right?
they're millionaires.
And, and we assume that.
Yep.
Well, let me say this. I'll say this about me, right? And I'll say this about a little bit about history, right? That when the guys I idolized, Walt Frazier, Willis Reed, Earl of Pearl Monroe, the minimum salary when they were playing was $20,000 a year, which back then was a lot.
Yeah.
You make $20,000 a year, that's a lot. Now, go forward, 1980, I get drafted, right? I get drafted in 1980. Minimum salary was $40,000.
Wow.
I thought I was rich,
Yeah.
But evidently I wasn't, So and then you look at the average salary today was probably 3.5 million or whatever it is in the NBA, right? And you look at people when athletes back in the day made it to the pros, and I go back to Willis Reed and even a little bit before Willis Reed and Walt Frazier. The guys before them played games and had a day job. I mean,
Yes.
yeah. So
Our football players had jobs off season too. You had to. Yeah.
yeah. So when you look out there today and you see all the money that's being made, right? You go back in history, right? They were not making money like that. What they had was the prestige of having made it to the pros.
Right.
Of course, that's a rare occurrence. We don't wake up.
Absolutely.
People don't wake up every day and play in the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA. It's to accomplish that, to play a year, to play a day, to get put on a team is a major situation. But talk a little bit about they're not rich, right? And many of them, as I said earlier, we start our careers, we get on the plane, we're flying in the plane, but for most of us, we do not know how to land that plane. We know nothing about succession. So talk about that in regards to the fund, both funds, the Seattle Seahawks Fund and the Legends Fund. and your support. Why these players need support.
Okay, so I'll start with the Seahawks Fund. Way back, probably 15 years ago, we had a player that had a stroke, and he had a job. This is a former player. He had a job, but for whatever reason, he didn't have any health insurance. And I worked with another player, and we actually sent letters to all of his teammates and coaches explaining that he needed money to pay his medical bills. And we raised money and helped him. And then a couple of years later, we had a second player that had a terminal illness. He was diagnosed with a terminal illness and given 9 months to live. And he had contacted us because he wanted a second opinion and he wanted to know what doctor to go to. But then we come to find out that he also didn't have any insurance. And so here's two good guys that have jobs, responsible, and they need help. And it made me think, how many other guys are out there that just need a little bit of help? I knew the history of the Seahawks with our fine money. Way back in the day, at the beginning of the franchise, Jack Patera was our coach. And they would fine the players for being late for meetings or missing training camp. And that money at the end of the year would go back to the players and they'd have a party. And then Chuck Knox came in to be our coach and he said, no, you don't have a party with fine money. And he started giving it out to different charities. And so now here we are, 25, 30 years later, and I have no idea what happens to the fine money. So I found out that it just went to the bottom line. It was buying tables, chairs, pens, pencils, whatever. So I put a proposal together and I said, why don't we take the current players' fine money and use it to help our former players? And the Seahawks Alumni Assistance Fund was formed, and we did our first grant in 2013. And we've been helping guys with things like mortgage or rent payments, car payments, utilities, addiction treatment, and unfortunately way too many funerals. So when Gus had his stroke, and then Slick Watts, another former Sonic player, had his stroke, there was GoFundMe's to help these guys. And there's a place for GoFundMe's, but there's no write-off, and you really don't know where the money's going. And so I thought, maybe we could create a fund, but I didn't want to do anything without talking to Todd Lewicki, who is the president of the Kraken, our hockey team, because he's also overseeing the arena where the basketball team will be if we ever get a team back. Anyway, Todd loved the idea, and we put a fund together, the Sonics Legends Fund, and we're going to help any former Sonic players that have ever been on the roster that might need a little bit of financial assistance for whatever reason, mostly medical. But I mean, if they, need money to pay their rent, we want to be there for them. And I'm working with the NBA too, just so you know. It's not like we're, out there on our own. We've contacted the National Basketball Retired Players Association. In fact, Dale Ellis has been to some of our events, and he's the chapter president down in Atlanta. And I've also contacted the NBA Legacy Fund, I believe it's called, just to let them know about what we're doing. And if they come across any guys that need help, to please refer them to us. These guys, it's with Slick and Gus, we've been able to use their names, but we know that it's hard for guys to ask for help and they don't want their name blasted out there. It could be embarrassing for them. So it would be totally confidential. Nobody would know what we were doing. We would give situations, but I would never give out a name of who we were helping. So, that's the need for the funds, is to help these former guys. The NBA, the NFL, they help their guys, but there is a limit to what they can do. So this fund has been great for both Slick and Gus.
So you didn't know coming on here that that we were talking about this love challenge.
I did not.
Right.
I did not. Yeah.
And so, this is kind of what we, what the love challenge is all about. Finding people who have needs.
Yeah.
And trying to meet those needs. I mean, I didn't know that when you were coming on, you were part of the love challenge now.
Okay.
You're part of, because that's what you're doing. You're showing these are acts of kindness. I mean, number one, the word love. Particularly in the Bible, when it says the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit, it's not plural. It just said the fruit of the Spirit is love, right? And then it goes on to say love is, goodness, kindness.
Kindness, yeah.
Yeah. And so those are the attributes of love. So as we move forward with the challenge, we're trying to help people learn to manifest love, right? And then the attributes of love, to show kindness, to be good, and I don't know. I don't think we take down that thing on the fruit of the Spirit. Some of those attributes of the fruit of the Spirit. I don't know if we took that flyer down. I think we might have kept it up there. If they find it, they probably pop it up. But what's your thoughts when you say, about this love and this love challenge thing, and how this could be helpful?
Well, to me, what I hear you saying is that anybody could do this. Anybody. Your random acts of kindness that you're talking about can be anything from helping someone put their groceries in their car if they can't do it, to picking up garbage and putting it in a trash can. I mean, it could be smiling at somebody and making their day. It doesn't have to be money. You can do kindness in so many different ways. I've been at the grocery store so many times where the people ahead of me have to put back some food because they don't have enough money to cover it. Mm-hmm. And when I was growing up, we did that. My mom would have to put back, food, because we didn't have calculators. She was adding up in her head how much, she was spending, and was wrong. And so I don't ever want anybody to have to put back food because they can't afford it. So there's just little things that people can do. I saw my neighbor. He was cutting his neighbor's lawn because the neighbor couldn't cut his lawn. Everybody can do something in some way. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be big, but we can all do something.
Right. And over the years, in terms of the Seattle Seahawks, I mean, I'm sure you've seen a whole bunch of acts of kindness from ownership to people, staff, to actual athletes. Can you talk a little bit about or share anything that you might have heard or seen?
Oh, absolutely. Because, there's just so many great things. So many players have foundations, which I don't always agree with, just to tell you the truth. I don't think you need to have a foundation to do good things. But I'm going to use Jacob Green, for instance. Jacob Green was a defensive end with us out of Texas A&M, and he lost his dad to cancer. So he decided to start a golf tournament way back in 1988. His career is over and done. And to this day, he still does that golf tournament here, even though he's working at Texas A&M now and living in College Station. He comes back every year to put on that golf tournament that benefits Fred Hutch Cancer Research Center. Kenny Easley comes back here. He's in Virginia. He puts on a golf tournament that benefits a school here. Randall Morris has a golf tournament. It benefits a couple different charities. We have so many players that are doing great things. One of our receivers, Doug Baldwin, he had a 10-year project. He grew up it wasn't a Boys and Girls Club, but it was a Salvation Army Community Center down in Florida. And he just built a community center here next to a school in kind of an area where they really needed it, more of a low-income area. And he just opened it up last year. And it's got a basketball court. It's got, pool table. It's got meeting rooms. It's got a little kitchen, but it's also got a health center in it. And the health center is for the whole community to come in. It even has chairs for people to get dental work done. Amazing work that he did putting this together. It's been a long time coming, and he should be really proud of what he did. But I mean, we did, food drives, toy drives, school supply drives. I can't even, there's so many things. We built tiny houses, Habitat for Humanity. We had our own school for a while. We had a Seahawks Academy, and it was a great school. It was like a charter school, but the cool thing was the kids wore like a Seahawks shirt. And so there was no peer pressure of clothing and what the kids were wearing. And I remember the first event we had, it was a pizza party, and the kids were stuffing potato chips in their backpack. And I looked at one of the teachers and she goes, that could be their dinner tonight. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So you just kind of, all these things kind of shape what you do. I had a player that, KJ Wright, I love KJ Wright. KJ, after I retired, he invited me to go with him, and there was about 15 of us. We went to Kenya, and it was life-changing to see. We went into Nairobi to begin with, and so that was, a city with electricity and running water. But we went out into the Masai Mara, and it was thatched roofed houses and no electricity, no water. And it was unbelievable experience to see how these people live, and they have nothing, and they were so incredibly happy. We went to a school, and the kids all had uniforms, but they had holes in them. They were all hand-me-downs, you could tell. And some of the kids had shoes, some didn't. But the kids that did have shoes, sometimes the toes were cut out because the shoes were too small for them. And then there was other players who went with us, and they played soccer with the kids. The soccer ball was plastic bags put together with rubber bands. I came home from that trip, and I started going through all my T-shirts. I must have had 50, 60 T-shirts. And I'm like, why do I have all these things? And I started, giving things to charity. It's like, we have so much here that we just don't realize that in other parts, people don't have what we have. And I was really careful now about using water too. I'm really careful. It never runs when I'm brushing my teeth because I know how important water is over there. Basically, the girls were the ones that had to go get the water. They couldn't go to school because they had to go fetch the water, and they might have to walk 2 miles to get the water and then bring it back. It was just such an eye-opening experience. And, I mean, we did other cool things too. We did safaris and hot air balloon rides, and it was just an amazing experience. So, I mean, these guys do so much, a lot of it in their own community, but some back home where they lived. We have a player that his parents were from Haiti, and he was building schools in Haiti. And here he was doing a walk every year that was benefiting juvenile diabetes. So there's reasons why guys do what they do. It might be their background, something, maybe they have a parent with cancer or diabetes, and so they want to support that, or breast cancer. You've got to find what the player loves and then try and steer them in the right direction. So maybe even with bowling or golf or fishing, you find the guys that like to do that, and there's probably going to be a golf tournament or a bowling tournament where you can put them in the right place so that they're making a difference. But education, there's so many things. So many.
I mean, that's good too, because sometimes you're trying, because you don't know how long the career is going to last. So, especially when you're not a vet, you haven't been there over, 3 to 5 years. And so you're just trying to stay alive, you're just trying to stay there, you just be there. So it's hard sometimes to concentrate on how can I help somebody, or,
you're right.
And those who do were brought up that way, right? They were brought up, taught to, okay, I need to get back, right? And so for me, it was, go and share, take the time to visit the elementary school, the middle school, the high school, and to throw free clinics or free camps, and provide shirts and provide sneakers and provide things, and also give life lessons. Because now you're standing on a pedestal, and the platform is short. I mean, it's not a long time. And most guys miss it. They miss it because they were just too busy, being the athlete, and all of a sudden, while they had the name, they didn't speak to anybody. They didn't do anything. And then when it was over, and nobody's clapping, and nobody know who you are, but now you want to be seen. Now you want to give back, and it's like, who are you? I mean, we don't even know you. So while you have while you have the platform, you need to take advantage of it, because that's when you can have the greater impact.
And with some of the rookies that I dealt with, I would tell them, say no. I would rather they study their playbook and make the team than get out there every week trying to do something. With football, they basically have one day off a week, which was Tuesdays. And so everything we did was either Monday night or Tuesdays. And a lot of them have to come in for treatment things. So I would encourage them either to say no, or join another player and do something, and maybe not try and do everything on your own, and kind of learn and watch one of the veterans and how they did things. And some of them weren't comfortable talking, so you try and set them up with maybe an appearance where they could just sign autographs. There's something for everybody. You just have to find what that is for that specific person, and try and help him with what he's trying to do.
Yeah. So let's digress for a moment. Let's
Okay.
let's talk about who is Sandy.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
talk about Sandy. Talk about Sandy growing up, mom and dad, siblings.
Yeah.
And talk about it around the framework of the importance of family, the importance of faith, the importance of education.
Okay. Born in Chicago, but in third grade, the family all moved to Southern
Okay.
California.
Oh, that was a good move. To like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we grew up in Southern California, a little town called Glendora, and didn't have a lot of money. As I alluded to, my mom would have to put groceries back sometimes, had our lights turned off multiple times, the phone shut down. My dad just jumped job to job, but my mom was solid. She, she worked, and she was great. But I went to high school, Glendora High, and while I was in high school, two things kind of changed my future. I took a class called shorthand, which nobody knows what shorthand is. But
Well, I know what it is.
You do? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I'm impressed. It's a way of writing with just scribbles. If your boss is dictating a letter, you can write it really fast. And so I took shorthand. I was pretty good at it. But in a PE class, one of our teachers taught us how to keep score in baseball. And I really liked it. I really took to it. So I asked if I could be the scorekeeper for the varsity team, but they already had a scorekeeper. So I was the JV scorekeeper in high school, my senior year. Went to junior college, Citrus Junior College. And I went to the baseball coach and I asked if I could be the scorekeeper. He had never had one before. And he said, sure. And so I was the scorekeeper. I went with him on the bus to the road games. But one of my duties, and you have to remember back then we didn't have computers. So the stat sheets were me with a ruler making all the lines, at bats, runs, hits, errors, and all that, and filling in the blanks by hand. But then I would call in the scores after the games to these newspapers, whether it was box score, line score. And one of the guys took an interest, like, what are you going to do when you graduate? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll just get a secretarial job somewhere. And then he calls me one day and he said, I'm not at the newspaper anymore. I'm now working at USC in the athletic department, and there's an opening. You should come and apply. And so I went down there and I applied. And after the interview, I'm walking out, and the guy, Don Anderson, opens the bottom drawer of a file cabinet, and he pulls out 2 autographed pictures of O.J. Simpson and gives them to me.
Wow.
And then he kind of gives me, and I still have them in my scrapbook here, but I glued them in, so they're like permanent. But then he says, we'll give you a call and let you know what we've decided. And I thanked him, and I start to walk away, and he goes, wait a minute. He says, I've only interviewed one other person, and she doesn't have shorthand. If you want it, the job's yours. It pays $360 a month. You get 2 weeks vacation, and I think he said 5 days sick leave. But if you're not sick, we expect you to be here. And that's something that always stuck with me. And that's the same boss that I followed to the World Football League, and I followed to Seattle. I just followed him everywhere. He, great guy that took me under his wing.
And so you followed them all the way to the Seattle Seahawks.
All the way to Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, the World Football League only lasted a year and a half, and then
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least he got another job somewhere.
Well, that's the NFL was expanding Tampa Bay or Seattle, and he interviewed with both of them. And we really thought he was going to go to Tampa Bay because our head coach at USC was a guy named John McKay, and John McKay ended up being the head coach at Tampa Bay. But he came up to Seattle and he interviewed with the Nordstrom family, and they were majority owners of the Seahawks, and he just had a really good feel for the Nordstrom family. So he took the job up here and asked me to come with them, and I said, "Ooh, yeah, it rains in Seattle." And again, words of wisdom: if you don't like it, you can always go back. So I took the job, and here I am, 48 years later.
Yeah, so 40. You retired after 42 years,
After a
and
little
you
over 42.
so
Yeah.
talk about the array of jobs. I mean, because you look like you was on all the spectrums.
Well, when I first started, you have to, back in '76, there wasn't.
I graduated that year, 76.
Did you really?
Yeah, I graduated.
Well, back then there wasn't a community outreach department. There wasn't HR, IT, or marketing. There was PR. So I was in the PR department basically, and I would type up the news releases each week and the stats and the roster. I mean, literally on a typewriter. And we didn't do a whole lot of marketing. Our radio station did a lot of that, but it was all PR. And then eventually they had a community outreach department, and I got to oversee that, which was really cool. And then I was community ever since, and that's the charitable arm of the organization. So it's all those requests for player appearances. It's all the requests for donations for all these auctions and things that are out there. So I had a great job. And on top of that, I worked 26 Super Bowls. The Seahawks were in 3 Super Bowls, and then I worked 23 Super Bowls for the NFL. And so I've been really, really fortunate over the years. Met some great people, done some, been in a lot of different cities, and met, people from other teams that I'm still in touch with. Yeah.
Who would have thought I don't know whether I would like keeping baseball stats, or
I loved it.
or if that would even appear on the radar. You're like, keep what? First of all, I didn't want to keep a scorebook in basketball, let alone want to keep one in baseball. But from that to like, look at that.
Well, that's USC too, because when you get to USC coming in from baseball, everything went to football.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, and they were national champs when I was there in '72. We were national champs, and Rose Bowl every year. We called Rose Bowl home.
Yeah, it was the home. And here's an interesting thing, because a lot of people haven't. You got a chance to see Gus play in college. What did you think of Gus as a college player?
You know what? I went to basketball games. I don't know. Just he was there. Paul Westphal was on the team, who also played in Seattle for a little while. He was just a good guy. I just went to the games to watch. It wasn't.
I mean, was he a good? Was he? Did you understand basketball? Like, man, he's really good.
Yeah, I don't understand it enough to say. Yeah, same with football. At USC, I couldn't have told you what a first down was. Seriously, I had no idea. It didn't make sense to me at all. Sometimes it's first down, second down, third down. Sometimes it's just first down, second down, and then it's first down again. It just didn't make any sense. So, I just went to the games and had fun and watched them run up and down the court. Yeah. I know now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Gus was a fantastic player, man. He had something quick, fast, like a blur. You see him there, he's gone,
Yeah. And he wasn't selfish. He would pass the ball. That's what I remember from the Sonics. He must hold a record for assists. Just very unselfish. Yeah.
And you seen Gus when he had hair.
Oh, you're right. I have a picture of him at both of us, I think, together. He had a huge fro. Huge.
Yeah. And then he get to Seattle and he's like, okay, I gotta cut this off. This has gotta go.
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean,
Special.
You were there. And I had a question for you, because I read some, and he was at USC too, I think. And I read a lot about him. the coach of Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, Pete Carroll.
Yeah, you know why? Because I read a lot about him, particularly in California, and visiting gang areas and the kind of
Yes.
support things that he did back then. But I always remember going to a Jets football game, and he was the head coach of the Jets, and there was something about him when they, just seeing him on the field and then seeing him, move around the field and seeing the way he was talking to guys and, and it was something I liked about him. Right. And I was always puzzled because not always good guys don't always transcend in the sport, people persons, relationship builders. I mean, don't always transcend or translate into in coaching sometimes, But I was disappointed when they let him go.
I was shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, but then when he arrived in USC and that whole the way he just commanded and loved the players and got connected to the community was, to me, was very, very powerful. And then seeing him in Seattle all these years, all good things, hopefully all good things don't come to an end, but I mean, not having, having him there, what was it like? I mean, because I don't know him personally, but.
Yeah. So he started a Better LA in LA, and he would actually go into Watts. And they knew he was coming. They'd call ahead, and just amazing stories of what he did in LA. And he was doing the same up here. He started a Better Seattle, and did some things up here. But I don't know if you realize it. He was just relieved. He was relieved of his duties up here, his head coaching duties.
Well, yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Sometimes all good things come to an end.
Yeah,
and it really wasn't his fault. I mean, you it comes to a time when you've been good so long.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like if you were talking about the Golden State Warriors. You've been good so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And then now is like there's a dawning.
Yeah.
Right? And so, everybody thinks after a while they got to get something new. So,
everybody absolutely loves Pete Carroll here. Not just, in fact, in today's newspaper, the back of the sports section, there was a full page ad, and it said that over 500 fans paid for that ad, and it was thanking Pete for all that he's done for the community. I mean, I just thought that was really impressive. Over 500 fans paid for that full page color ad. It was pretty neat. The players love Pete. He's players coach is what they say. But I remember him. So Make-A-Wish, one of my favorite charities. We had lots of Make-A-Wish kids, and Pete all the coaches are really good, but Pete would not only come over and take pictures and sign autographs, but he'd run up and down the field with the kids. We had one kid here. He was 14 years old, and it wasn't a Make-A-Wish, but he was local, and a doctor asked us if we would treat him special. So we had him out to a Saturday walkthrough, and I let the players know when there's somebody coming and kind of what the situation is. And so after practice was over, all the players came over, the coaches all came over, shook hands, took pictures, signed autographs, and then Pete came over when it kind of quieted down, and he introduced himself to the parents, and then he looked at this 14-year-old boy that had a brain tumor and was given 9 months to live. And he said, "Come on, let's take a walk." And the two of them, the boy had a football in his hand, and the two of them walked across the field, just the two of them. It was, I have a picture of it. It's one of my favorite pictures of Pete. So they're just walking across the field. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to hear what they were saying. And even his mom said the same thing. She never really found out what they talked about. But as they came back and got closer to us, I could hear Pete say to him, "Now remember, you're welcome to come back here and visit us anytime you want." And he did, and he came back. And And another part of that story, one of the times he came back, all the players were coming over and saying hi, and Marshawn just walked right on by. And I'm like, oh no, Marshawn, no. And I was just kind of like, oh, how could he do that? Well, shame on me, because all of a sudden Marshawn comes walking out of the locker room with that helmet in his hand. And he comes over and he gives the boy his helmet. And I found out later that was his actual game helmet. He didn't have his helmet for the game that weekend. They had to create another one for him. And then at his funeral, he didn't make it. That there was Marshawn's helmet at the funeral. The impact that these guys have and that Pete has, and it's people, they don't see all of this stuff. Some of it you see on TV, and special with social media now, but there's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes. This story to me, and seeing Pete and how he reacted to this kid and inviting him back to come anytime he wanted,
Yeah, I just knew it.
Special.
I only seen Pete Carroll at one game. I was just at the Jets game, and just his spirit.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sitting close to the field either. I was
the energy and
I was just seeing him
gum. He chews
pacing back and forth, just pacing, talking to the players, and interacting and stuff like that. I was like,
you had told me that you went to Pike Place Market. Did you ever go to the gum wall? Do you even know what the gum wall is here?
I don't know what the gum wall is.
Not
I probably walked by it or something,
Well, not too far from Pike Place Market, there's a wall where everybody takes their gum and sticks it. It's pretty gross, actually. Well, someone
that sound gross.
They just made a gum picture of Pete Carroll on the gum wall. Somebody brilliant. So Pete's on the gum wall now. His picture in gum. Yeah, he's famous for his gum. Yeah.
Oh man, no. I mean, talk about being there, winning the championship.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was rooting for you guys to win the second one.
Yeah.
I know.
And
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. But the first one, this is I'm in the stands. We worked all week because we go ahead of time and we're working. But I'm in the stands for the game, and we're sitting around a bunch of Seahawk people. We're in a Seahawk section, and we're doing well. And then we've got the second half, and Percy Harvin takes the second half kickoff and goes 80-some yards for a touchdown. And I started bawling. I literally started crying because I knew we had momentum. I mean, that we just continued where we left off in the first half. I knew we had the game. There was no doubt in my mind. And people are looking at me like I'm crazy, but I couldn't help it. It's, I've been there 30-some years and never a Super Bowl, win. And I just knew we had it. And then afterwards, I'm at the door that lets the family on the field after the game. And so I'm letting people in. And then after the final people, I went on the field, and I'm like, the confetti's flying. I'm stuffing it in my pockets. It was just, it was just such a cool moment. And then afterwards, this is a crazy thing. This almost didn't happen. So you know how you're invited to the White House afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
The team is. So I'm at the office, and the team is leaving the next day for the White House. And I'm walking down the hallway. It's a long hallway. And there's a gal coming the other direction. She goes, "What are you wearing?" And I'm like, "Well, it's just, from Nordstrom." And she goes, no, what are you wearing to the White House? And I said, "Well, I'm not going." And she said, "You're on the list." And I said, "Nobody told me." If I hadn't run into her, I would have missed the trip to the White House the next day, because I would have just come to work as normal. So I got to go to the White House too.
Wow.
Pretty special. Yeah. Pretty dang cool. I know I've been really fortunate.
No. Hey, it's good to be blessed.
Yes,
and it's good to have favor.
Yes.
I heard somebody say favor ain't fair.
Oh, goodness.
So I think my wife was commenting down below there. She said, "Thank you for all you do."
I need to meet her too. I need to meet all of you guys.
Yeah, no.
Someday.
Yeah, someday. Yeah, when we get back out to Seattle.
Yeah, or when I go visit Gus again. I visited him one time, and I want to go visit him again. Yeah.
We need it. You're probably on one of a few people that had contact with, Gus at least in the last month or so. How's Gus doing?
I did a FaceTime with him. He's in a nursing home in the Baltimore area, and the FaceTime, I was so excited because he looked great. He looked just like Gus that I remembered, and he was alert, and he was just in such good spirits. It was such a great FaceTime. I felt afterwards, I started calling some of his friends and saying, I had a FaceTime with Gus. He looked so great. It was really good. So he's doing well. Yeah.
That's good.
He needs help. He still needs assistance with, some of his medical things and things like that. But he looked so good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when we were talking about that earlier, man, it brought a tear to my eye because, when you look up to somebody most of your life, and no matter, how close Gus and I have been, when he comes into your presence, I get that little boy thing, like when I was a little kid and seeing Gus play for the first time, I'm like, and he walked by me, at the club, or I see him at the club, or I see him at the high school game. You get that like, oh, that's Gus.
Dang, that's interesting. Yeah.
And so even as a grown man and being a friend with Gus, when we're in each other's presence, it's just like, and I'll tell you another story about Gus, because you said what you enjoyed about Gus was that he was unselfish.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So Gus and Ray, we played in the Summer Pro League down in New York City that we played together. We were all on the same team. And, Gus and Ray started, and I was coming off the bench. And literally, when I came in the game, Gus paid such attention to me to make sure that I got the ball where I needed to get the ball, and he would encourage me to be me. Everything, he would just make me look, he would just make me look good, and he was just so unselfish. I mean, he could have scored like anytime he wanted to, but he would take a back seat when I came in the game and give me the ball,
That's not surprising.
Yeah, and one of the guys, I was the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Mount Vernon for 27 years.
Wow.
And of course, Gus was at, all our galas, all our golfing events he would come to. And there's a guy by the name, he's still on the board of the Boys and Girls Club, Dan Aronson. Dan Aronson is a white guy, red hair, and he was the only white guy to make it on that 72 team.
I love it.
Right? He's the only white guy to make it on the team. And if Dan was on here right now, he would tell you Gus made him look so good. Right? He said he fed me the ball in ways that I could just put the ball in the basket, and he made me look so good that day. Right? That those tryouts that they had no choice but to make a part of the team. He said I wasn't very good, but Gus made me look good.
Wow.
Right?
That's really cool.
And he loves Gus to this day.
Yeah.
He said, because I would have never been on that team if Gus wasn't on that team. He was just so unselfish, and he didn't need to do it. Right? Yeah. And imagine him lowering himself to help Dan be good that day. Yeah. And he had never made a varsity team. He could have been like,
Yeah.
He only made the team that year. I mean, so yeah. So I mean, yeah, just awesome, man.
Well, here's what Gus did for me one time. I'm at the Seahawks, and our PR department is playing the University of Washington's PR department in basketball. I've never played basketball in my life. I can't dribble a ball. So Gus brought a ball home from the Sonics, and we're in his garage, and he's trying to teach me how to dribble. I mean, something so basic. And he's telling me that this ball isn't really meant to be on cement. I didn't know there was a difference. But every time I would bounce the ball, if I didn't watch it, the ball wasn't there anymore. It would go away. I had to watch the ball bounce. It was just funny. Oh, but I learned a lot about basketball when we played that game because I had no idea how tired you can get running up and down that court. And they had to have a girl on the court at all times from each team. So it was, I have greater appreciation for the game after that.
Oh, so no athleticism.
Not really. What I really did love was racquetball. Actually, I played a lot of racquetball, and I really loved racquetball, and would play a lot even with some of the players. That was fun for me. Yeah, and we had a court right at our office, one of our offices. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean that had to be so special to Seattle Seahawks. Man, all the players.
Yeah.
And is there any player, you in 42 years, so what's your top?
Can't go there, you know that. I can give you a top 100 maybe.
Yeah, there's a top 100 player.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many great guys, and, I'm still in touch with so many of them. How's this? Steve Largent.
Oh, yeah.
Steve
I
Largent
love that
was
guy.
our first Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I love that guy.
His son was born with spina bifida. I don't know if you're aware of that. He had a son born with spina bifida.
Okay, so my youngest son is born with spina bifida.
You mentioned that, yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why. And it was hard on Steve because he apologized to the media because he was really short with them one time because of all that was going on in his life. But Steve, one time I'm in my office and he's not playing anymore, but he's visiting. And he walks in my office and he says, "Hey, while I'm here, do you want me to sign anything for you?" I'm like, who does that? Who comes in and usually I'm begging guys, "Hey, can you sign this? Can you sign that?" But he actually comes in and offers to sign some stuff. He's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, really good guy.
What a great player.
Yeah. He and Jim Zorn. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned, I'm going to mention 3 players.
Okay.
Marshawn Lynch, because he's different.
Marshawn.
Yeah. So
talk about different. Oh, what a character. Very unique. Very, very different.
Only one of his kind.
One of a kind. But you know what? His teammates absolutely loved him. Absolutely loved him. He played so hard, and the Beast Quake and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he does so much in Oakland. It's all about Oakland for him and taking care of the people there. So he does a lot in the Oakland area and the community and with the youth and football and all that. Yeah. But you never know.
Looked like he landed well. I mean, remember we were talking about landing the plane? Looked like he landed the plane well.
Well, look at all he's doing now. He's in commercials and yet he's the one that I'm just here so I won't get fined. And then all of a sudden he's out there doing all these commercials and things. Yeah, very different. But yeah, just a very unique talent and special guy.
I was thinking about the cornerback. Very intelligent. What's his name?
Are you talking about Richard Sherman?
Richard Sherman.
Love Richard Sherman. Oh, Richard Sherman. Okay, so some good things about Richard. He would, he came out of Stanford,
Mm-hmm.
and he really wanted to go to Stanford because he was out of Compton, and you don't go from Compton to Stanford usually.
Right.
Yeah, and so it was really important to me. I think he was also recruited by USC, but he liked the idea of going to Stanford. So, but he did things like on his own. He did a back to school supply drive. He would he didn't even collect it. He just paid for it. He would put backpacks together full of school supplies and hand them out to kids in low income areas. But the one thing that I love that he did that I got to work on is during the holiday season, he would bring in, I'm going to say about 30 families, 25, 30 families, and he'd get their wish list. And his wife, Ashley, would go shopping. And we're not talking about just buying them T-shirts and things. We're talking about Xboxes and bicycles and major things. And he did it at our office. We had an indoor practice facility. And I worked with Nordstrom, and we set up a corner of the field with a backdrop, and it had a Christmas tree, and it had street lights, and there was poinsettias and a big Santa chair. And that was a photo area. Where Richard would take photos with all these families. But the field itself was set up so that the kids could run through football drills, and the equipment people did that. So they would come in and the kids would run through drills. We'd take family photos. They'd have a meal up in our cafeteria. And then before they leave, all their gifts were put on different yard lines. So there's some on the 20, the 25, 30. And Richard would stop at each yard line and help them open the gifts and give them to them. And then on the way out, they had a basket of goodies for him that included grocery cards and things like that. Unbelievable holiday party that he put on every year. I love being part of it. And then we got other people in the organization to come out there and help too. So, we could make sure it all ran smoothly. Richard has the biggest heart. I had a friend that would put him down, and I was telling him about some of the things that Richard did, and he changed his mind. Because Richard, he's got this on-field personality.
Yeah.
There's an off-field personality. There's two people there. And the Richard Sherman off the field is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to be on the field. You're in the moment. It's like acting. You're like action. And you in it. And sometimes it's a little hard to come down from that guy.
Yeah.
But once you're down from that guy, you are who you are.
And he's good. He's really good.
Yeah, because I'm good friends with Curtis Martin.
I know the name. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the all-time great running backs. His story out of growing up in Pittsburgh is so incredible. Just an amazing person. I mean, but on the field he had to be. Yeah. He had to be Curtis Martin. So. And you got, in order to be great, you gotta be able to do that. The other guy I was thinking about was Russell Wilson.
Okay, Russell. So he's a little controversial right now. We traded Denver. He's not with us anymore. But Russell did so much in the community. He had his own foundation, the Why Not You Foundation. He put on golf tournaments. He made so much money for Children's Hospital. I remember the first time I met him. I'm in the cafeteria, and I'm doing something we're not supposed to do, and that's you don't complain. But I was complaining to one of the other guys because our building was 3 stories, and I was on the top floor, so it's hard to meet the players and get to know them. So I was complaining to one of the guys on the first floor where the players are. I said, I don't even know the players anymore. It's so hard to meet the players. And he goes, around the corner walks Russell Wilson. And I said, he goes, here comes one right now. Russell, meet Sandy. And Sandy's in community outreach. And he goes, oh, I've been wanting to meet someone from community outreach. I want to start going to Children's Hospital. And so I said, no problem. I'll be more than happy. So he took my phone and he put his name and number in my phone. He even put quarterback next to his name, I guess, so I know who he was. And I called Children's Hospital, and the date he wanted to go, they said, oh, I'm sorry, we already have some people coming that day. We can't do it. And I'm like, okay. So I got a hold of Russell, and I said, can you pick another date? And so I drove him to the hospital because I'd been there multiple times, and he had never been there, and I wanted to make sure he knew where to park and how to get in and out. And he started going back, and I'd call ahead and let him know that he was coming. And they said, he's going to have to take a class in how to be a volunteer at the hospital if he's going to keep coming. And I'm like, what? No, he's just visiting patients. So I actually ended up working with someone else at the hospital instead of that lady. And then he just continued to go back every Tuesday. He would take Tuesday and go visit kids in the hospital and just make their day. He just did some amazing work there. So I think he's missed for all of his charity work and things like that. He took us to a Super Bowl. I feel bad that he's taking a lot of heat right now, that he didn't have a great year the first year. And last year they didn't make the playoffs, but he was playing better. So I hope things work out for him.
Yeah, I mean, hey, the world of sports,
I know.
Of
cruel.
an athlete is the business out of it, right? But Russell's a strong person, so
yeah,
and
he's very his Christian faith is really strong. He loves his family. He's a great father, great wife. Yeah.
No, good people, man. From Pete Carroll to the players, man. Yeah, and you know what I know about well, especially during the super, you know, that they had that span where they were just great, but their
Yeah.
defense,
Legion of Boom.
woo,
The
and
Legion of
and
Boom.
and the
Yeah.
fans,
Yeah. Yep. We call them the 12s. We were calling them the 12th man, but then Texas A&M has trademarked that, so we couldn't use 12th man anymore. So now we call them the 12s, and they're crazy. Yeah, they're fun. They're very loyal. Yeah.
oh
We're
man, oh
fortunate, very fortunate. Yeah.
yeah, and if you had to think about it, you know, because you mentioned a couple of people, you know, when you think back about a person, right, that you most admire besides a family member that you most
Oh,
admire.
okay. That's actually pretty easy for me. So when I was still working at the World Football League, a guy named Gary Wright joined us as a PR guy. And then he also came to Seattle with us. And Gary, I'm close to they're like my second family up here in Seattle because I've spent, different holidays with them and I have lunch with his wife all the time. But Gary was our vice president of communications. And he, he's all about taking care of people. And it doesn't matter if you're the CEO or if you're an intern. If he can help you, if he can give you advice, if you have a question, if anything he can do to help you, he's going to do it. And he gives good advice. It's not about money. It's not about recognition. It's about doing the right thing. So he's going to give you the advice that you need. I talk to him constantly, even now, even with the Sonics Legends Fund. I'm asking about different things and how we should be doing something just because I respect his his opinion so much. The Seahawks named the press box after him when he retired. It's the Gary Wright press box. And then a couple of years ago, the Pro Football Hall of Fame started new awards. They're called the Awards of Excellence. And normally they honor the people that are inducted into the Hall of Fame are players, coaches, and ownership. Well, now they're recognizing assistant coaches, trainers, equipment guys, and PR guys. And they just added film directors last year. Gary was one of the first PR guys that got the Awards of Excellence for what he did as a PR guy. He worked all those Super Bowls I told you about. Gary's the one that got me involved in those Super Bowls. It was the two of us together that I worked with him at those Super Bowls. He's just well respected in the industry, and he's still here, and his name is gold. Everybody loves Gary, just loves
Right.
him. So that Gary Wright would be, without question, the guy.
And when you think about, like, what would you say in terms of the day and for young people who are looking particularly to get into what I consider a sports career? And because, a lot of times most people, but I'm gonna frame it like this. There may be people who are looking for a career that may not be athletes, right? And
Correct.
and they and sports, that world of sports, which is a multi-billion-dollar business. And then there are people who are in the sport, right? And our careers, certain things stop short. Like, I want to be in the NFL, but I'm finished at high school. I went. I'm a college player, but I finished. That's it. I didn't make it. Think about a sports career. What would you say about this whole world of sports? Of course, it seemed like you really, really enjoyed it.
Oh, I loved it. So there used to be, I don't know if they still have them at schools, career days. And I remember being at some NFL meetings, and some of the teams would say, "Well, we don't do career days because it's not feasible for a high school football player to make it to the NFL. The chances are 0.1% or something of the high school players that make it to the NFL." But my thought was, wait a minute, you don't have to be a football player to work for an NFL team. Besides community outreach, there's marketing, HR, there's human resources, there's marketing, we have a chef, and there's a whole staff that does the kitchen. We have a nutritionist. We have the people that take care of the fields, people that take care of the building, photographers, videographers, the IT department. There's a job out there that for somebody, if you want to get in the sports field, there's something out there. You just have to get your foot in the door. So you volunteer. You work at your high school, and you build up a resume. You work in, you volunteer to go to different events. The Seahawks have a thing called a street team, and these kids, they get paid, but they work at different events, setting up the booth, or at a game, they set up some of the tables and chairs and things that you need at the games. So they're being seen, and you never know, that could work into a job. So you just need to get out there and volunteer, and whatever your interest is, there's a job in sports for that. There's TV, radio, and TV guys. We're fortunate that a lot of our guys, even we talked about the transition out of the game. A lot of our guys work for the team after their careers are over, which is pretty cool. So yeah, don't give up
don't lose the locker room. Yeah, right.
Yeah. There's so many ways, equipment people and trainers and coaches, and there's so many ways you can work for a team, and you don't have to be a football player, basketball player, baseball player, soccer to do it.
Yeah, it was I was watching a movie recently. It was on HBO, I think it was, called MVP. Right, and actually, it's a true story. And it was I guess a football quarterback. I guess like forced him to retirement. He didn't think he can play anymore, and he didn't know what to do with himself. He did well with his resources and stuff like that. Lovely home, wife, children, but he was distant from his wife, children, everything. Didn't know what to do, and long story short, guy was working in. He was in a gated community, and guy was like the security, and it's like he was drinking, he didn't know what to do, so he just drinking and just bust through the gate, ran into the wall, and the guy helped carry him to his car and got him to his house, right? And then the crazy thing was that he got him in his house, and he was mad that he brought him to his house,
Oh.
So he must have cursed the guy out or something like that. But then he went looking for, the next day, he felt bad, how he treated him. And he found out where he was at, and he was in a shelter for veterans.
Oh, wow.
And so when he went there, and these are all guys who were having problems, like now leaving the service, PTSD, or they had all kinds, and they were all trying to survive, meeting together, and he found out he was a vet.
Wow.
And then long story short, he had created a gym. And so he was missing the locker room. He was trying to get his former players, hey, let's create a locker room by coming to the gym. And then so the vets needed a place to go where they could vet, And so they started bringing the vets in. They started exercising together, all that.
You know what you're talking about?
What's
you're
that?
Talking about MVP program.
Yeah,
it's
MVP
called
program.
Merging Vets and Players. And it's Jay Glazer and Nate Boyer.
Yeah.
And they started, Nate Boyer, so this is Pete Carroll for you. Nate Boyer was, I want to say he was Special Forces or Green Beret, and he got injured. And, but Pete Carroll, his dream was to play for an NFL team, and Pete Carroll signed him to a contract. It was really unbelievable.
Wow.
And so he played, I think, 1 or 2 plays in a preseason game. But he and Jay Glazer, who's on TV, they started MVP. And basically what they do, and they're in maybe 7 or 8 different cities now, and they have one here in Seattle, and I've been trying to tell our players about it. It's where any veteran, any arm of service, and any professional player, they can go to this gym. It's once a week where they meet and they work out together. And then when the workout's done, they take chairs and put them in a circle, and they just talk. And they talk about their experiences and what they went through, whether it's football, whether it's the military. And I've heard it's really powerful, really powerful.
Well, the movie was powerful.
I got to look at that.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah, the movie was really, really powerful.
I'll find that and look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That was nice. So
Yeah.
I mean, but this what we are talking about tonight, man. And it can happen in any workplace,
Yeah.
any career place. Things can be created for people,
Yeah.
especially, you know, we don't know. I retired. It was weird. I
Yeah.
mean, but the
Yeah.
pandemic, I always tell everybody, man, I didn't even have like a real retirement. You retire, you start saying, I'm gonna travel, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and I'm just hang out. No, I was confined to the house for like 4 years.
Oh, not what you expected.
But
Yeah.
the great part of it was that I got to know, spend time and see my grandkids.
Ah,
I saw so many things that probably my wife and I, because we were working, and once they got to a certain age, they went to childcare, right? So I got to see things that I never seen, with my kids, seeing them every day, seeing my grandkids every day growing up, and seeing them walking,
yeah.
talking, crawling, whatever they're doing now. And I got to see the detail. And that's why I was telling my son-in-law, he's a fireman,
Oh,
right? So he has, they work a couple of days, 3 days off, and he had his kids. And I was sharing with him one time, right, how blessed he was to be able to have those 3 days with his kids all day.
yeah.
Because soon they're going to be up and they're going to be gone, right? But you laying a foundation, in that time. And I, as a grandparent, I got that to spend that time by being in retirement. I got a chance to spend that time with them, So,
Awesome.
man,
Well, it sounds like
Sandy,
you've got quite a basketball family too. Everybody's playing basketball.
yeah, I mean, well, my wife played at Fairfield University, full scholarship. My daughter played at Fairfield, right?
Wow.
I played at West Virginia. My son Isaiah, he played at Edinburgh wheelchair basketball. He's still playing in college right now. He's finishing up in wheelchair. My other daughter, my oldest daughter, she was a cheerleader, but
Wow.
so she was
Pretty
around
cool though.
basketball.
Yeah.
She had a great jump shot. So yeah, we're a basketball family. We just run around watching basketball.
A lot of hoops. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of hoops, man. Hopefully I'll get out to Seattle one of these days, and looking forward to having the Seattle Supersonics. That's what our name was at the Boys and Girls Club in Northside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, was the Sonics. We pictured ourselves after the Supersonics at the Boys and Girls Club.
With the blue, with the green and gold.
We
Or-
had our own colors, but we had the lightning bolt at the bottom. You had the Sonic with the lightning bolt at the bottom.
Okay.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah. So Sandy, I want to say thank you, man. And any
Oh, no.
yeah, I mean, if there's some young person out there or some young person that will view this in the future, could you give them an encouraging word?
Well, you know what? I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. Those small acts of kindness, those random acts of kindness. Just we need to be good to each other right now. There's just so much going on in the world. I was watching the news last night, and two 14-year-olds robbed a bank, and I'm like, 14 years old. Oh, what is happening right now? We just need to take care of each other and look out for each other, and any little acts of kindness that we can do. The opportunity's there. You just need to recognize it and do something.
Yeah. I thank you for taking time out your busy schedule because well, at least for me, it's going to be 8:30. For you, you're in Seattle,
Yep.
right? And,
Yep.
and
5:30. Yeah.
5:30 there, so you get the your evening is still fresh.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank you to Steve Vaccaro in the chapters wrap for his comments, and want to thank you for coming. Just hold on for a second. I'm gonna close out, and so thank you each and every one of you for your support of the Blueprint Podcast each and every week. Man, I love you guys. I'm looking forward to next week. I will be. Hopefully, I'll be doing the podcast from Morgantown, West Virginia. Man, I'm going down to see I haven't been back to Morgantown since the pandemic because everything was put on hold. Usually once or twice a year, the alumni has a weekend, and all the alumni get together. I'm going to be there. It's not alumni weekend, but I felt like before the season ended, my wife had mentioned, hey, man, we need to go see, West Virginia. We need to go to West Virginia. So we're going to go to the West Virginia game. I'm going to do the podcast on Saturday morning. It's going to be a special Saturday morning Blueprint podcast next week. And my former teammate, now Pastor Junius Lewis, is going to be my guest, man. And Junius and I, we're going to have a great conversation. He was the guy, when I visited West Virginia, he took me out. And I'm looking forward to him. He's a pastor now. 6'11", Junius Lewis will be on the Blueprint podcast, and I look forward to seeing you guys then. And I say this each and every week. If God allows you to wake up tomorrow, make tomorrow your masterpiece. God bless you, and I love you.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Lowe's More, the Blueprint podcast. Stay connected and follow us at our website, www.lowesmore.com. That's LOWESMOORE.com. You can also join the discussion on Twitter at Lowe's More and on Facebook at Lowe's More Jr. As always, thank you for pushing your mindset towards a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast to stay fully up to date with everything we're up to. Until next time, be kind to yourself and each other.
What they teaching is a joke. I ain't buying it like I'm broke. Insufficient funds for insignificant sums.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode